Premiere of new business on our agenda. Feel free to cheer. Okay. More coffee in the back if you need it. We proposed changes to BLACA H28 that were passed, and that had to do with involving strongly encouraging instructors to post their course content. We had proposed changes to the grievance and review policy that passed. We had a motion at the very last meeting to adopt the Mutual Defense Compact, which passed. We had proposed changes to BLACA H30, repealing ACA H32, which had to do with withdrawals and grading. And then finally, we passed that was it. We passed an item on the bylaws for at least a minimum of 10 minutes for new business. We'll talk about new business right before it started, so we can talk about how that's going to operate. A few items that are in front of us for this year: examining our bylaws and constitution for possible changes brought about by current legislation, university policy, and just changing landscape. Develop and finalize the General Education Committee through the Long Range Planning Committee. Support and operationalize and implement new policies around annual reviews and post-tenure reviews, and I'll be talking more about post-tenure review later. Develop a campus policy committee to work within the new university-wide alignment initiative. We did have a question submitted around DEI, so I wanted to just kind of give an update that one of our charges this year is for the DEI committee to work to understand kind of the full extent of the landscape around what's happening, and then provide recommendations about possible evolutions or how we move forward. We need to make decisions around the creation, reorganization, elimination, and merger policy and committee because of the impacts of BOT 25. And we hope to work with our chancellor on possible initiatives of interest that improve the campus. And I'm sure I'm forgetting more, but they'll come up as we move along. So thank you at this point, and I'll turn it over to Chancellor Reingold for his report and then our Q&A.
Thank you, President Ramos. Good afternoon, colleagues. It is a pleasure to connect with this group in my capacity as the Chancellor of Indiana University Bloomington, our state's only comprehensive research university and the campus that means so much to all of us. As I presume most of you know, I began my career here as a newly minted PhD as a faculty member in SPIA before it became known as the O'Neill School. After 18 years here at Indiana University Bloomington, I moved up north for a decade to serve as the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts for that other public university in the state. In the months since I've been back here in Bloomington, I've spent many hours in meetings with faculty, staff, and students to reacquaint myself with our campus and to meet some of the people who have joined the campus in the years while I was up north. I'm grateful to all the individuals who have helped bring me up to speed on the work taking place here today. The provost and the deans have been particularly helpful over the summer. My listening and learning tour will no doubt continue for weeks and months to come. I'm grateful as well to all of you who serve as members of the BFC. Having been a faculty member for almost 30 years, I know how many obligations you have as leading scholars, educators, and citizens of your professions. All organizations, including universities, maybe especially universities, depend on cooperation among individuals engaged in the pursuit of a common purpose. And the BFC has provided an important venue for this at IUB over the years. I look forward to engaging the BFC in a spirit of cooperation while working to advance the campus as the preferred destination for all Indiana students qualified to study at a place like IUB, and advancing the campus to be within the top third of the Big Ten, now numbering 18, placing us among the most competitive part of this academic conference. I've enjoyed spending time with Bill Ramos and Danielle DeSawal, and it's been a pleasure to visit with many of the new BFC members during orientation this past month. IUB is indeed fortunate to have colleagues who are thoughtful, practical, smart, and most especially who are willing to serve as leaders through the BFC. As Chancellor, I am committed to supporting the three pillars of our work: teaching, research, and engagement, all of which are foundations of the IU 2030 strategic plan. We will address these in many ways, and here are a few that I'm focused on in the coming year. Reimagining new, forward-looking degrees to attract students and prepare them for life and career success while orienting our disciplines for 21st century inquiry. We will also work to improve our research standing around our particular human-centered approach to invigorate the historic academic strengths of IUB and develop new approaches to our scholarship that can flourish in this technology-driven time. And we will continue to add value for our Bloomington community and fulfill our obligation to the state that gives us our name as we serve the people of Indiana and our South Central region of the state. So as we focus on the year ahead, there are two particular areas in which I will ask the BFC to offer help and partnership. The first, I would like to ask that we give some thought to how we ensure that all students on the Bloomington campus benefit from the wisdom and mentorship of our faculty, and many indeed do. We can all point to the mentors who shaped our academic journeys and our professional lives, and I think all of you will share the belief that we all have an obligation to pay it forward to our students today. So with that in mind, I ask that you help me understand the opportunities and the challenges as we recommit to seeing that every IUB student benefits from a meaningful faculty mentoring relationship during their time here on this beautiful campus. The second area that I would ask for partnership on is to consider how we might work to ensure that our students are adequately prepared to participate fully as engaged, responsible, and informed citizens who contribute in their careers and in their communities. While we're preparing students for productive careers, we also must recognize our duty in educating the next generation of leaders who understand both the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. Every graduate should leave IUB life-ready, career-ready, and citizen-ready. So let me conclude by noting that it is indeed a highlight of my career to have an opportunity to give back to a campus and a university that has given me so much. I'm committed to leading IU Bloomington to new heights in education, scholarship, creative activity, and service, both to the state and beyond. I appreciate your partnership in those efforts, and I look forward to working with you over the coming year.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Bill. We have a few minutes for questions from the floor, if there are any. Yes, Diane?
This is to you and David Rahul. Could you please ask the Board of Trustees to lengthen that comment period? 10 days seems beyond absurd to me, and I do not understand why there's only a 10-day comment period.
We'll make sure that that gets relayed to our colleagues on the Board of Trustees.
Yes, Julie?
So the BFC Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee has recommended for 2 years now that the first BFC meeting each year should include a land acknowledgement, and that the BFC should take at least one action each academic year that supports Native faculty and students on campus at minimum. Since we have not heard a land acknowledgement yet today, I move that the Bloomington Faculty Council acknowledge and honor the Indigenous communities native to this region, recognize that Indiana University Bloomington is built on Indigenous homelands and resources, and recognize the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people as past, present, and future caretakers of this land.
Okay, I assume that's a comment rather than a question, but thank you. Is it a motion? Okay, so then, Secretary, you'll have to tell me if this needs a second.
Yes, it needs a
Actually,
second.
it's in the Q&A period. Is this the right time for that, or does it go in the new business?
I see no reason why a vote couldn't happen in the moment. It seems like a simple matter.
Okay, so she has passed a motion to do a land acknowledgement. I think this needs a second, then it'll be a discussion, and then it'll be put to a vote. Diane is seconding that motion. This is now open for discussion. Anybody questions, comments? Seeing no questions, I assume we are ready to put it for a vote. Is that correct? All right, all in favor of having that lined acknowledgement as read by Julie, please raise your hands. Safe to say motion passes? Motion passes, thank you. Okay. Yes, Beth.
Beth Bugenhagen for Social and Historical Sciences. Would you update the BFC on how many SEA 202 complaints there have been so far?
I'm going to ask the provost to respond to that.
How many complaints? Less than 5, but I don't have the exact number unless VPFA has that data. This is for the last year, I assume.
I do not have that report handy. My apologies.
But it's not an overwhelming number if that's what you're concerned about.
Since Julie made a motion, may I enter a motion to request that a discussion of SCA 202 be placed on the next BFC agenda, please?
Well,
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that one? No discussion. I guess we call that for an open vote as well. All in favor of having an item on 202? I think motion passes. Okay. Next question. Yes, Alex?
Thank you. Alex Lichtenstein, Social and Historical Studies. So, Bill, as you mentioned, the BFC would like syllabi and course material presented in advance. So this really is a question about how that process was rolled out according to the demand that we make our syllabi available in a week in advance. So as a department chair, I was asked many, many times by my colleagues over the past 4 or 5 weeks, okay, I spent some time this summer getting my syllabus prepared and getting it up where it was supposed to be publicly available. Where is it? And of course, it was delayed 5 weeks. So I suppose my question is, what was the reason for the delay? How much did the new system cost to get up and running? And perhaps most importantly, why not just make it IGPS, which essentially is what it is. That is, the new public syllabus is simply rebottled IGPS with a link to your Canvas page, syllabus page, which is a good system, that's fine. But the question is, why was it so late? How much did it cost? Why were we asked to do this when, in fact, it really wasn't done?
I will answer as much as I can. So giving some historical perspective, the part I read that we did last year, for those who may not be familiar, is we went through an entire year to upgrade language in our policy that it be strongly recommended. And then, of course, we had the state law come out and other policies that kind of overrode that. Cost, I won't be able to tell you. It is I had the same question. I kept wanting to see what mine looked like from external. How many people know where you can go see it? Yeah, so if you go to 1IU and type in syllabus, it's called Course Leaf, and it has a search function. You can go in and people can search that, and that is externally available, which might be another topic for discussion another day. Why not IGPS? Again, I'm going to tell you the best I know. This was a temporary fix to get us in compliance and get us moving. I am told we're going to have feedback and comment into what comes next. Nobody, I think, feels really good about people reaching into our Canvas sites, and it may have altered how people use their Canvas sites. I don't know what's coming down the pike, but again, I'm told we'll have some feedback into that situation.
Thanks, Bill. I suppose my question really was, faculty complied, the administration did not. Why?
I think it was just a matter of, I can follow up for the big answer, I guess, but my sense was it's the first time they did it, first time they're using Course Leaf, so it probably just had a delay in it.
I can just add to the cost piece. Course Leaf was being procured or had been procured already for bulletins purposes. It already had a module on syllabi, so there was no net new tool cost. Obviously, there were personnel costs and time that you all and many other people spent on getting it up and ready. iGPS is an internally developed product. It is being phased out along with a bunch of other small tools we have developed over the last several decades, and it is being replaced by Stellic and CourseLeaf as an enterprise-wide system. So that's just normal upgrade of our IT systems, and this is just happens to be a part of that.
Yep. I'll keep everyone posted on the opportunities to give feedback. Many of you have already emailed them, so if you want to email your perspectives on that to the office, I'm happy to carry those forward. Also, just a reminder that anyone that's teaching an off-cycle course, like a second 8 weeks course, the same rule applies. So I think October 13th is the date that those syllabi would need to be posted. Might be a misstep in our first time through it. Thank you, Alex.
Scott?
Thank you. I just have a really quick question. Would it be possible, given the fact that I would imagine our agenda for this year will be engaging with the consequences of BOT 24, 25, and 26 as they are implemented, would it be possible for you all to provide redlined versions of those policies as they transitioned from their original ACA versions into the versions they are today for BFC review? And can we have those prior to our next BFC meeting?
So I have been told we're getting those. As soon as I get them, I'll make sure they're available to everybody. It definitely saves time between trying to find an old policy and looking at a new policy. So, yep, that's been approved. So as soon as they're available, I'll get them out to everybody.
Okay, thank you. One more from Julie.
Hi, yeah, Julie Hardesty from the libraries. I've got a question. Since the May 22nd announcement of the closure of offices focused on supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion on this campus, do you have numbers for how many faculty and staff have lost their jobs and how many faculty and staff have been moved to other positions within the university?
Would you like to address that?
You should address it.
I don't have those numbers, but all I can say is we've taken all the steps necessary to stay in compliance with both state and federal regulations. We did work very closely with BFC Executive last year. It was an issue that was dealt with nationally. We were no exception. And we have taken every step we can to make sure all students, staff, and faculty are supported.
Is it possible to get those numbers and have a report of some kind in general about the numbers of faculty and staff that have lost positions or faculty and staff that have been moved?
It will take effort because these units and offices are throughout campus. I can look into it and I can let Bill know privately, and maybe you can share with Julie or others as you feel appropriate.
Yeah, I also think that's work that the DEI committee is charged with and will follow up on.
Thank you.
Yes, last question before we move on.
Thank you. We have been told that we can expect major changes to the core curriculum coming down the pike. Are there updates that you can provide us on the core curriculum?
As Bill mentioned, or maybe the Chancellor mentioned in their reports, there is the effort started actually a year ago with the Long Range Planning Committee. Danielle's taken over that committee. We have invited a number of faculty to serve on a committee to be co-chaired by Danielle and our brand new Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education. Welcome, Luhang. That work will kick off in the coming days, and I'm sure BFC and particularly Danielle will be closely engaged in that. Danielle, would you like to add anything to it at this stage? Or Luhang?
I think the only thing I'd add is we should, as Provost Shrivastava said, it'll be kicking off next week. The deans and the policy council chairs for the schools and the college were asked to submit nomination names for consideration, and that's where the names of the committee members came from. We anticipate that we'll be building off of not only the work that Colin Johnson and Vasti Torres did last year, but the work of the Gen Ed Task Force. And so you can, as a friendly reminder, the Gen Ed Task Force report from the years previous to that is on the BFC website. So you can see those recommendations, and this is the year in which we will move all of that information forward to have a new Gen Ed curriculum reform presented based on the last 3 to 4 years of work that this campus is already engaged in and discussion.
So we can keep you posted as it moves forward.
Thank you. Let me move on to the next item on the agenda. That is a presentation on the state of research at IU Bloomington. And I invite again another new colleague and leader, Scott Shackelford, Associate Vice President and Vice Chancellor for Research. Scott, if you're ready.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much, Rahul. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I was humbled to take on this role and have the opportunity to build on the solid foundation that Bria and before her, Jeff, Rick, and Sarita have laid. I have to say it's also a pleasure to look around and see so many familiar faces and friends, and even a few former professors. I see you, Margie Hershey, back there, so thank you. I view this opportunity and this role first and foremost as an opportunity to do 3 things, and that's first to support the IU Bloomington research faculty, staff, and students and their needs, supplementing, not replacing what's available at the department and schools. Second, to connect us across disciplines and units so that we can break down barriers and build bridges to more effectively tackle the common challenges we all face. And third, to communicate and celebrate our many successes as a community. It's no secret that trust in higher ed is low. It's time for us to step up, in my opinion, and not step back and tell our stories about why our research matters, both to decision makers as well as Hoosiers across Indiana, and indeed fellow citizens across the country and around the world. Just a little bit about me, if we can get that working, and that's okay if not. There we go. I have been on the faculty here at IU for 15 years now, and also an IU alum. I served on the BFC previously, as well as the GFC, so I have a background and a believer in the power of these institutions, and I've had some previous administrative experience here at IU that I hope to bring to bear in this role, including founding our first ever triple school master's program. This was a partnership between Kelly, Luddy, and Maurer, and the graduate school around cybersecurity risk management, and then for the last 6 years, I have been busy running these research centers, the Ostrom Workshop and the Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research. Let's see if we can, there's a bit of a delay. In terms of our existing landscape, needless to say, it's a challenging time in higher ed. It's a challenging time across IU for our researchers and around the country. We're dealing with grant cancellations and stop work orders. After a relatively quiet summer, those have picked up again, unfortunately, in the last few weeks, with cuts to Title VI impacting researchers, as has been reported, and staff at Hamilton Luger and across campus. It has been hard, of course, to stay on top of all of these developments. They're fast coming. All federal agency communications that IU receives are posted to research.iu.edu, and that's kept updated. So if you haven't checked it in a little bit, it is worth seeing what the most recent information is on that site. But there is good news as well that is going on, and frankly, it's what powers me through a lot of these days as well. That includes some exciting developments like Dr. Sarah Skrabelak from chemistry receiving a new Phase 2 NSF award, $20 million, or Bridger Ali, professor in philosophy, receiving the Humboldt Research Fellowship for postdocs from the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, as recently celebrated for the Glory series. And there's recent news as well with NSF Engines and other exciting developments. So IU is well positioned in a lot of ways to weather this storm, in some cases even better than a lot of our peer institutions. We are, and I didn't realize this until relatively recently, a top 10 public university foundation support, as well as deepening engagements with industry, government, and nonprofits. There's also exciting new translational opportunities, including through the IU Lab, the Launch Accelerator for Biosciences, which is going to be the front door for industry to partner with any of you and your colleagues and students who wish to partner on life sciences, biosciences projects, and that's made possible, of course, by the Lilly Endowment. In terms of some other opportunities and just things to celebrate, frankly, this first slide we pulled from the IU research site, and this is IU-wide, so this isn't focused to Bloomington, but it gives you a little flavor at a glance for just the sheer productivity of all of you and more broadly our research community. There's a heck of a lot going on that deserves this type of celebration, lots of proposals getting submitted, lots and lots of citations, books being published. IU Bloomington has always been very strong on that metric. And in terms of some more specific snapshots for IU Bloomington, if you're curious, I think this is also a bit of a good news story. In terms of the proposal success rates, as you see there, are still relatively high. There's a lot of noise right now. Needless to say, we're watching a lot of these issues play out in real time, depending what happens with the negotiations and the reconciliation process. But as of now, there's a lot of researchers who are still having success because of the strength of their proposals. I will say, though, that this number does include non-competes, so it's a little bit higher than just fresh off the bat. And lastly, when you're looking at that non-federal funding, this is if you're curious how it breaks down, and I'm happy to share more details with anybody who's interested, but you'll see there that federal, corporate support from the state and otherwise make up the bulk of that non-federal piece. But as I said, there are some exciting developments in the works that are going to give hopefully that many more opportunities, which is very important at a time like this when we need to diversify our funding sources. And then as far as kind of what I'm doing now, I'm not exactly a grizzled veteran in this role. This is only week 6, I think. So just finishing the onboarding, the transition process. Kind of like David, I'm still in the mode of going to all of the IU Bloomington schools and holding office hours, meeting with chairs and ADRs and interested faculty, student, and staff researchers. Those have already been really helpful and insightful, so that's going to continue. After that's done, I'll also be holding a weekly office hour. So if there's ever questions, we'll be getting the word out, of course, about that, but folks are encouraged to either beam in or come in person. I'd love any opportunity to discuss, engage. Here are some other priorities that we have going on, dovetailing from what David said just a moment ago in parts. That includes a drive for research excellence on the Bloomington campus. We had our first focus group meeting for that effort just yesterday, and that's, I think, going to be a great forum to discuss ways to support, recognize, and celebrate major accomplishments. That'll include working with several staff members like Andrew McLaren and Mike Famiano, who help with things like nominating faculty and students for awards, and there's a lot of deserving faculty and a lot of awards that frankly are on the radar there, and folks like Mike Famiano, who have been helping a lot with kind of workshops and research development. The 4 interdisciplinary research networks that Bria did a great job in standing up, those are going to be going strong as well. So remember, that's aging, sustainability, quantum, and AI. So there'll be a lot more opportunities to engage in those efforts over this academic year. AI in particular, as you would guess, is getting a lot of attention, and it's still relatively, in my sense, and please push back, a bit fractured around campus. So we're trying to find ways to bring that community more together, and that could include things like an AI research day symposium for IU. So that could be a combination of some training, some practical tools and tips. What do you do with sensitive research information, for example, in these LLMs, as well as an opportunity to convene interdisciplinary working groups on these different topics. And then lastly, working to find new ways to find our students, as David was mentioning, getting them engaged in impactful research experiences. A few other kind of final items just for note. One, the FADS program, the Faculty Assistance in Data Science, that's open. If there's anybody interested in applying to that for support. The research security policy is open until next Monday, I believe. So that's within that 10-day comment window still. So if you'd like to weigh in on that policy, please do. We're tracking various, of course, policies and proposals coming from the state and federal government. And I'm also working on some pressing issues in collaboration with other units, including UITs, including on storage issues, because I know that's been a big concern for a lot of faculty members. So my hope is that there'll be a communication coming out this week on that, and it's in draft form currently. So just lastly, I wanted to thank you, again for this opportunity to speak before you all. I view this role first and foremost as an opportunity to use this, right? To use this as a microphone for the Bloomington research community, including all of our faculty, staff, and student researchers, ensuring the services and support provided by IU Research meets our evolving needs. We're a diverse group with many strengths, and we can't always speak with one voice, but I know we share common concerns and aspirations. We want our research to be innovative, to push back the frontiers of knowledge, and to have an impact and make a difference. And IU Bloomington continues to be a research powerhouse with global reach and potential. And I look forward to being a partner in any way that I can and a champion for our excellent faculty, staff, and student researchers across Bloomington and the wider universities. So with that, just thank you again, and I welcome any questions you might have.
We have time for questions. Let's start with Bill.
Please.
So I'm thinking about the mental health piece, and specifically some of my colleagues who are early career, maybe assistant, thinking up, and they lose a major award. I mean, it's really devastating for many. And I just wondered if we're thinking about any kind of support groups or resources for people. I just don't want to diminish how intense that reaction can be.
Certainly is.
And I don't know if we're expecting that to happen in the school. Some of it is, but I don't know if your office saw any need for support there.
I think that's an incredibly pressing need. This is very traumatic, not only, of course, for the PIs and the research team, but also the students, maybe staff who were impacted as part of that process as well. I think that does, need to happen, of course, at the unit, the school level. I see IU Research, though, as also being a useful facilitator in that and connecting us with other resources across campus and to form, some of those needed support groups and opportunities to make sure that those folks' mental health is first and foremost. So I welcome opportunities to speak with Rahul and David and ways that we could partner together on that. But I think that's vital, absolutely. And our colleagues in Ursay might also be helpful. We can talk to them. Yeah.
Let's go on that side. Pickett.
Drew Pickett, School of Public Health. Scott, we kind of got at this a little bit yesterday, but then I saw your incentivize research, ... And the last was, I forget the word you used, but potentially.
I'll go back to that slide,
if you could go back to that
Drew,
slide.
yeah.
It's an
Or if I
interesting
can.
word.
I think it was
As we
sensitive.
are holding sensitive.
Yeah.
Yep, is
Yeah.
exactly the word. As we're holding events across campus about diversifying your portfolio and doing research to bolster away from those sensitive topics, I wonder if you could maybe operationalize what you mean by sensitive and how we're incentivizing when we're also having the conversation of diversifying away from some of those topics.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and this 100% should be a community approach, and in this case, the BFC Research Affairs Committee is very well placed to have some of these discussions. The way that I put this on the slide, at least, was meant to think broadly about the diverse array of, translational research, the community engaged or base research projects, and sensitive in this context, in my mind, first and foremost, were basically kind of national security related projects. So those that would involve, let's say, researchers who need to have clearance, maybe publish in specific journals, and as a result, that's going to impact their career trajectories. But we have to make sure that that's also still, valued in the process. So the idea was just to cast the net wide and think through these different items more broadly to make sure that, there's as many carrots as we can have in this process. So thanks for raising that, Drew.
Question on this side, Hobson.
Thank you for taking my question. So, because of the cuts, how much has IU been able to cover the losses to federal funding? And have we seen cuts in particular areas more so than others? Thank you.
It's a great question. I don't have all the numbers offhand. I will say that there is a bridge funding program available, and we encourage all faculty and other researchers who have been impacted by these cuts to seek that out because there is funding available through it. As far as the overall number, I don't have that in front of me, but I'm happy to do some digging and report back. And it sounds like maybe David could be able to help.
I can also add that the cuts have come in different flavors. Some have been temporary suspension, then it's restored. The latest round was cuts to future fundings, so it's not prior or ongoing, it's just future years have not been funded. So what the impact is and how we deal with it is very different from grant to grant, unit to unit. So it is something we work directly with the PIs, impacted labs, and the support network is both locally and centrally, as Scott said.
Can I just,
David?
I was just going to add, Dean John Chichari in HLS, I think some of the recent actions has been developing a contingency plan in partnership with the provost, and I think are thinking very carefully and ahead on how to support faculty and students who are being negatively impacted, particularly with those latest wave of decisions to not continue funding in these out years. Obviously, these are important programs and programs that have been essential to the lifeblood of this campus for decades. And we are working double time, and Dean Chichari is working triple time on making sure that we are doing everything we can to preserve and maintain, obviously under some difficult circumstances.
David?
I had the same question about FLAS, so thank you, Chancellor, for addressing that. I did want to ask about the bridge funding. So bridge funding is not only for research expenses, but does it include graduate student support? Because oftentimes the grants that are being cut can include graduate students being listed as research assistants on the grant.
I believe the answer is yes, David, but let me confirm, in particular with Scott Michaels and some of the folks over there who have been taking the lead on this, but I believe so.
And just as a follow-up, in my conversations with the deans, almost all of them have said that they are able or have been able to cover any gaps that have occurred so far. So I presume that's still true. I also want to say that if any school or unit is having issues with that or problems, that we have set aside a small amount of funding for gap funding for graduate students as well.
Any other questions related to research? Yes.
Hi. Speaking of graduate concerns, I'm a third-year PhD student and finishing coursework, moving into the research phase. And so you mentioned like some availability of money available for conducting research for faculty members. And I wasn't sure if you could clarify maybe of how much of those resources are also available to graduate students who are trying to conduct research, as opposed to just what's available for tenure and tenure track faculty.
For sure.
Thank you.
And it's such a great question. I'm a little biased because I'm thinking of my previous role as a center director, right? So I would just encourage us to look broadly at that ecosystem of opportunities for grad students. So, for example, at the Ostrom workshop, we have Ostrom fellows, we have doctoral students, we support full funding. There's also seed funding programs to go do field work, that kind of thing. A lot of those same opportunities are replicated across other research centers under IU research. Kind of technically, these are these 17 or so centrally administered centers and institutes and museums. But there are separate funding programs also that kind of IU writ large administers under IU research. So some of those, are geared, frankly, for faculty, but there's about 10 of them. So I don't pretend to have details on all of them right immediately in mind, but it's worth looking at that page and just seeing which are graduate student focused. If you're spotting omissions, or maybe there's for folks and doctoral students and grad students in the A&H, just be aware there is a separate page for that under the President's A&H Council. So take a look at that. But of course, if you're not finding those types of things, come talk to me. Let's have a discussion and we can make that connection.
Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So this is a similar question, but from a different angle. So faculty members in A&H or S&H, for example, might have an NEH grant. That's not really about the research money. It's about the time and the salary replacement. So is there any way, and I can think of at least one person in my department, for faculty to apply to, for instance, get a course release or two in lieu of their canceled NEH or NEA grant?
It's a great question. I haven't, I think the best way for me to help with this would be to have a discussion with Ed and see if that's already been brought up over the course of this last year. That's probably more closely on his radar, but we meet weekly. So I'm going to add that to my agenda item from the next one, and because I think I completely understand where you're coming from. So I'll bring that up.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Scott. Let's move on to the next item. That is the introduction to the Bloomington chapter of the AAUP, the American Association of University Professors. And this year, our presenter is David McDonald. David?
Thank you. So my name is Davey McDonald. I'm here representing the arts and the humanities. But today I have the opportunity to talk with you all about another role, which is currently I am serving as president of the IUB chapter of the AAUP. Are you sure this thing works?
It's quite a delay.
Do you have to point it somewhere? Oh, there we go. Okay. So, for those of you who have a past experience with AAUP, I'd like to welcome you to renew your membership, if at all possible. And for those of you who haven't had the chance to work with AAUP, I'd like to invite you also to establish a relationship with AAUP. AAUP, the American Association of University Professors, is the largest national organization for faculty interests in the country. It is both an advocacy and a bargaining unit. On this campus, we are an advocacy unit rather than a collective bargaining unit. However, in Indiana, there are 20 chapters, including all of the satellite campuses, as well as at other public universities in Indiana. This chapter, I'm very pleased to report, now has an entirely new leadership slate of officers and an entirely new executive committee who all came on the job July 1st. July 1st was the moment we took the job, and we've been quite busy since then. If you haven't had the chance to take a look at our website, for example, after the online website hostage situation that took place this summer, we had to move all of our things to off servers, which we've done remarkably well, and now we have an entirely new repository of information for faculty to engage and discuss their ideas, to see the statements, all the lobbying action that we are doing. I promise you I'm pushing this button. There it goes. So what is the AAUP then doing? Now, I want to point out some important movements, actions that AAUP has been taking at a national level. You may have realized or in the news noticed that, for example, Harvard had its research funding reinstated. That lawsuit was brought about by legal action by the AAUP. You'll notice that the Trump administration was given a preliminary injunction in stopping its detainment and deportment of graduate students based purely on their speech. That was legal action that was created by the AAUP. The AAUP is now on the front lines of these issues and ideas, speaking on behalf of academic freedom, speaking on behalf of faculty rights, and speaking on behalf of the collective organizing of the faculty and students on research campuses. Anyone at this university who has a teaching or research appointment is covered by the AAUP and is welcome to be members. That includes students and faculty alike. All of these things point to, if you want to be involved, and if you want to see who is fighting back against these seismic and often declarative attacks on faculty governance, on academic freedom, and on freedom of speech on university campuses, I would direct you to take a look at what the AAUP is doing. These are the folks who have now come on board with our chapter here. I want to point out that since April 17th last semester, we hosted a day of action. Since that time, our membership has gone up over 50%. In fact, Moira tells me not too long ago that we have exceeded all previous records of AAUP membership on this campus. And to that I say that's amazing. However, that's step one. We need far more members on this campus. We need to be engaging with the other IU campuses in order to make a full frontal assault on these aspects of of faculty governance that have been under attack on this university. We need to engage with other universities in the state of Indiana to deal with state legislation. And to each of those points, I'll point out that the AAUP is already on the job. Indiana has, in fact, garnered the attention of the National Organizing Unit, and they have basically sent to us a Midwest region organizer / lobbyist to work with all of the AAUP chapters, specifically in the state of Indiana, to try and lobby state legislators to repeal or at least revise the more onerous parts of the BOT policies that came through without faculty review or oversight last June. Now, that means that the work that we're doing is super important and it is immediate, but that work requires the kind of membership numbers we don't yet have. And so I'm making appeal today to convince everyone here to take the chance to either renew or establish their membership of the AAUP. This offers our best opportunity for collectively moving faculty interests and preserving academic freedom on this campus. Freedom of inquiry, faculty job security, attacks on tenure protections, for example. These are all things that the AAUP has been fighting against for years and years. We can join that struggle, but it's going to require a great deal more membership on our hand. The good news is it's super easy to do. In fact, you can choose at what level you'd like to join the AAUP. It can be as little as $7 a month. It can be as much as $25 a month. How many of you don't have $7 a month you can kick in towards collective organizing to protect academic freedom on this campus, right? Seems like a pretty good deal to me. So what I'm asking is for you to join and get others to join as well so that we can move towards this new front of faculty organizing on this campus. Now, we do have some upcoming events that I want you to alert to. In fact, a friend put in front of you this little flyer which announces our upcoming all-campus, all-student and faculty town hall event, where we will present a lot of the work that we have been doing, including some of the policy statements that we have already released. There are 4 of them that you're more than welcome to review on our website. And we will then be soliciting feedback and faculty ideas, opinions on priorities on the things that we should be working on next. All of this is to say is that we are coalition building, and that coalition building will begin October 3rd at our all-faculty town hall event at the education building in their large auditorium. And it will move forward from there. The day after will be our Indiana AAUP conference, where we'll be working collectively with other chapters on advancing these interests. The last thing I want to point you to is a new directive called All In for Higher Education, which is a statewide AAUP lobbying effort to try and engage with our state legislatures on matters of concern, specifically in areas of academic freedom and tenure protections in the state of Indiana. So with that, I'll entertain any questions you might have. But I definitely want to invite everyone to get involved, to be a part of this coalition, and to help all of us arrive at a place at this university where we can be very proud of ourselves as faculty and researchers, scholars, and students. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for some questions. Any questions for David? Seeing none. Thank you, David. Let's move on to the next item, which is an update on post-tenure review. I invite Bill Ramos back on to present. Great.
Great, thank you. So this is a brief overview of where we are currently with work towards BOT 24. Post-tenure review, and I will count on VP Doherty to chime in with me. We've been taking our show on the road, I feel, quite a bit. Obviously, very important, a lot of information on people's minds. And again, kind of the startup was a little slow. There were a lot of things that needed to be clarified. I have to say we've been incredibly impressed working with the academic leadership team out of at the university level, very responsive when we needed clarifying answers. We currently, let's see if mine's gonna work. There it is. We currently have a post-tenure review working group that's university-wide because, again, the policy is university-wide, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So some things that are happening, and if you go to the very end of the policy, and I've found people don't go that far down, there is a timeline that we're to adhere to, and you'll be seeing some of those dates as we move forward. So currently, with the deadline of October, and in my head that means October 31st, by the way, the University Faculty Council co-chairs were tasked with 3 items: developing a template letter that will be used for annual review, developing a template letter for post-tenure review, and developing a standardized template for performance improvement plans when necessary. So those, once developed and vetted and approved, will be university-wide. So it's going to be a consistent thing across all the campuses, since the post-tenure review is also in that vein. We also have the policy chairs are meeting. We had our first meeting just the other day. It was great. Deans are invited, or representatives, along with all of your policy chairs. We started these last year under Danielle's leadership because we realized there was no point where all of the campus policy chairs were coming together. Really kind of a support group. Last year it was around SCA 202. This year it's around post-tenure review and some other items, but really designed to just keep us in cadence and answer those questions. Some things are coming hot off the presses, so being able to put those things towards a group, and we'll be meeting again, I think, coming up shortly. So I mentioned the university-wide group. Those that will be going up this year were notified, and there is a complete list coming soon, probably this week. Okay, so great. So we really pushed in the group to get out the date for those who were coming up quickly. Again, by the time we got answers and worked through legal counsel, a little longer than we wanted, but you have it. And now we want everyone to be able to see the full trajectory. So when that list comes out, you'll be able to see, people will be able to see where they are in the time frame coming up. It was decided and approved that it's 5 years with additional information provided by faculty. So one of the challenges with the way it's presented is we have to collect data about students and courses and other things, annual reviews, and not all those things are available back from when some people started. But for example, those going up will submit a CV, and it will be their full CV. So there's information there that does go back and is available. We did get approval for the annual review and post-tenure review cycles to line up in the spring. So they're kind of complementary. Annual review first will follow into the post-tenure review. An important note is previous annual review process is good for review this year. So no one's asked to go look into a crystal ball and create criteria now to be put back on us since the review of starting in January. So, but a specific there, again, kind of hot off the presses news, is your departments, your school may use whatever annual review process they've previously used for this year. Next year, it's going to be the new game. But at the end of the day, if you remember, there's 4 categories, I think everyone's aware, that come with the policy. No matter what annual review policy you currently use for this year, everything will need to be mapped back to those 4 competencies. So for example, in public health, we have a 5-point scale. Great, we can still use it, but probably at the dean's level or somewhere between faculty governance and administration, we need to know how those 5 map to the 4, because there will be a moment where all that has to be translated to the 4 categories that are available to us. Workload, annual review requirements, and post-tenure review will be in full swing for 2026. So that's why some people have said, well, then maybe we can take a deep breath and not do the work because we have a year. Really don't have a year, because by 2026 we need to have established the foundations for what you'll be reviewed on in 2027 for 2026. It gets a little confusing with dates, but we're always thinking a little bit in arrears. And then I'll just share this. This is directly from the policy, but the big task for your policy chairs right now, and some of you may be that person, is to develop the discipline-specific criteria that will go along with the post-tenure review. So that's being developed. If you haven't heard about that or you haven't had any communication, it might not be a bad idea to kind of search around and see if it's happening. And this actually will be the big focus as well as workload for our next meeting with policy chairs coming up. And I think that is it.
That's certainly what your remote thinks.
That's my remote thinks I'm done. So we'll call it there.
We have time for
And
questions.
I'm assuming lots of questions.
Any. Alex.
Thanks, Bill. So two questions. One is there's a lot of confusion, at least amongst the faculty I know, about the 5-year versus the deep dive into the ancient history of people's records. So is it optional to do the deep dive? Is it necessary? So, and the second question is a little more complicated, and that is, I'm glad that we have this thing where people's first annual review will be based on the criteria that they've been adhering to over the past year. That's sensible, that's fair, and we'll roll out the next reviews in 2027 spring on the new criteria that we write now. Very good. But that doesn't apply to the post-tenure review, right? I mean, if it did, logic would say that the first round of post-tenure reviews should probably occur in spring 2031 because people work on calendars that were based on the idea of tenure, not on post-tenure review, which means people work on 5-year plans, which means that, that they really need 5 years to bring their record up to what is expected for a post-tenure review. By the logic of saying we're not being evaluated on previous criteria. So I don't know if there's a way out of that conundrum, but just so I'm clear, the post-tenure review criteria will be applied immediately to the first round of people who come up this spring.
Correct. Yep, and that's why it needs to be done. Now, again, that last annual review or the previous annual reviews will look like they've looked. Those don't change. And this last one will, again, stay under the last criteria. There were questions around that we heard around grandfathering or should it just start now? But this is the way it's written, and this is where we're at.
And the 5-year versus the in
the deep
perpetuity?
dive. Yeah, I don't know, Carrie, if you want to help me with that one. I know part of it is because simply the data we can collect and what's available. But again, there'll be options to submit things that show your career.
Yeah, I can try and help with this. Before I do, I want to make sure that I provide 2 dates, at least 2 dates for you all. Like we do tenure and promotion workshops, we're also going to stand up post-tenure review workshops. So we already have those planned. The first one is going to be on October 22nd, and that will be specifically focused on the faculty who are participating in the post-tenure review. And then we will have a separate one on November 12th, which will be specifically focused for the department chairs and the other leaders who will be implementing these post-tenure reviews. And then, of course, we always have the one-on-one and office hours that myself and Jessica Lester and Amanda Diekman, the 2 AVPs, can work with any faculty on this. Actually, they have a office hour tomorrow at Ballantine Hall from 9 to 11. So all of these dates are on our website, and again, we want to be a resource to facilitate this process as best we can. To the specific question, the one-page documents that is part of your post-tenure review packet, as a faculty member, you can determine what you want to highlight on that. So, the policy is open about the first post-tenure review, including work since you received tenure. So during that one-page document, as Bill said, similar to your CV, it is going to have information that you wish to highlight. The data that we are providing, and again, just so everybody remembers, the actual data is the faculty members' teaching workload, the number of students a faculty member teaches at the undergraduate and graduate level, the research and productivity, time spent. We will be partnering with you on those, but we do not have systems in place to go back, 10, 15, 20 years. And again, I think that would be pretty burdensome to ask you or any office to do that. So to make that easier, those last 5 years of data will be provided. Now, I think also the understanding is that the post-tenure review is meant to reflect on the most recent 5 years of productivity. So while you can provide information on your CV, on those one-pagers that shows the totality of your career since tenure, the greatest emphasis will be focused on the last 5 years of work. Oh, my apologies. Tomorrow's office hours are from 1 to 2. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Carrie. Moira?
Thank you. This is probably a question Carrie can answer. I may have misheard, but when the complete list of faculty who are eligible for post-tenure review is available, I assume that will still be where a place where an individual can go and look up and see where they are in the timeline. It's not the public list of everybody.
Yeah, so what we will do, and again, my goal is to do it this week, is to send each dean a list of all of their faculty and when they will be evaluated for their post-tenure review. So you will know if your timeline's 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, so you can prepare. I also want to communicate that even when we provide the list, Bill said grace, right? It's not going to be 100% absolutely accurate. And if you, for example, held an administrative appointment for greater than 0.5 at some point in time that we don't have great central systems to document that, please talk to your dean so you can communicate to us and say, actually, I was the grad director for the last 3 years, which was a 0.75 appointment in my unit. Therefore, when I step down from that appointment, then my 5-year post-tenure clock will begin. So again, there might be a little movement and wiggling based on administrative appointments that you might have held during that time. Just let us know about those, and we will make the appropriate adjustment.
Go ahead.
Sorry, first time with this. Sean Nicholson-Crotty from the O'Neill School. So the emphasis on 5 years, the policy explicitly reads, the first post-tenure review shall assess the tenured faculty member's performance since the award of tenure. That's the statement on IU's webpage from BOT 24. So that would imply that it's not the last 5 years, it's since tenure. Now, I understand the gathering teacher evaluations and one thing and another, there are limitations on what we can do past 5 years, but you're suggesting that that statement is incorrect and that in fact 5 years is the primary focus of the evaluation?
Carrie, do you want to respond to that?
So yes, the policy as written has that sentence at the beginning, and then later in the procedures, it talks about the last 5 years. It is one of those things that Bill and I have talked about, and we're seeking clarification on that. And that is why, as I said, the totality of your work in this first post-tenure review, certainly in both the CV and the one-pagers, can reflect all of that work. But I also want to be clear that the most recent
last 5 years is going to be where the last 5 annual reviews will be shown and the data will be shown. So I think it is appropriate to say that the data the information that will be reviewed predominantly includes the last 5 years. And so I just want to make, again, that will be the review packet.
Thank you.
Diane?
Okay, so first of all, Carrie, it's also in the law, just as a reminder. So there's one other big question that hasn't been addressed yet, Bill. And I know it's you and Carrie that I'm talking to. The service issue is not in the law. It's theoretically not part of what we're accounting for, and yet it's been part of our job since we were hired. Could you please address this problem, this disconnect?
Boy, you hit a passion of mine all across the board. I think service is the underrated, under-recognized part of our career. We all know we do it. We couldn't operate the university without it, but it rarely has its moment. I think we have a real moment to make sure that it is finally given its place. So, for example, those who go back and are in conversations about your workload, those involve service. And we need to make sure when we're having that discussion that we honestly don't marginalize service anymore. I've been in tenure and promotion meetings. I've been around, and it's always that trailing conversation off to the end. Research, teaching, and then service. Okay? So we have those opportunities. You will have a place in the post-tenure review to put that in. And I hope you do, and exalt it, because I think it is an important part of what we do.
I will also say in the policy, a rating will be assigned to each area that you are. So there will be a rating for your teaching, for your scholarly activity and research, and for your service. So then the totality of that, or your overall performance, will take into consider the service side of things as well. I agree that it is unfortunate that actual data around service is not one of the required entities, but we have a one-pager that we will all provide that can clearly articulate all of the service that we all do. So thank you.
Yeah, I think early in the policy, it only mentions research and teaching, but then later, when you're developing the criteria, it specifically asks for service. And I'd like to put another note on the table as part of the new policy alignment and policy landscape. This will be one of the policies that's up for review, which means it'll have a lot of eyes on it out of the gate, even as a new policy we're still using, and it will also have the 10-day comment period at some point. So when that happens, I'm hoping we have an opportunity to say, hey, okay, we have this, but here are the things that aren't lining up. These are the things that, from an operational standpoint, just don't work for us, and maybe be able to influence the policy in the future to be, I've heard from several people that find those conflicting places or the confusing places. So I think it's hopefully going to be a good example of how this new system gives us a chance to even give comment to Board of Trustees policies and have some influence.
Thank you. Beth?
I will make time for Jeremy's sake. My question is simple. Members of my department will want to know, are we to meet our departmental tenure and promotion criteria, or once we hit tenure, then do we start meeting BOT 24 criteria? Because those are two very different types of faculty members and two very different types of scholars.
Carrie, do you want to address that?
Absolutely. So post-tenure review is not adjudicating the tenure decision, right? So the tenure criteria that we all were evaluated under was that point in time. Over our career, we evolve, right? We do different things. We focus in different areas. And that's why, in many ways, this workload expectation is incredibly important. So as our career evolves, what are the things that we are focused on? And are we meeting those identified expectations? So I appreciate you asking the question, Beth, because I think it is critically important. We are not going back and redeciding if we all would have received tenure again. And so I think that's a really important point to review.
Sure.
Could I just clarify for a moment? I'm not specifically asking if we'll be rejudged on our tenure, but we do go through a process of promotion. And we do, in our department, at least in anthropology, and I'm sure in many more departments, we value a research portfolio that continues throughout the duration of your career with increased leadership, in the profession, on campus. But that is at odds with BOT 24.
I'm not sure they're at odds. I think BOT 24 gives you a standard template and gives flexibility to adapt that template based on individual point in time in your career. My interpretation here is that it's really asking for accountability. If your job description requires you to teach 2 classes a year, are you teaching 2 classes a year or not? And if it is not 2 classes, what should it be? It does not specify exactly what your expectations are. So I think there's flexibility in BOT 24, but I do agree that we all collectively in our own policies will have to adapt to the new overall policy landscape. Bill?
Yeah, just one other comment that I'd like to add. So the discipline-specific criteria is in our hands, and I think that's important. The timeline's quick, so faculty are supposed to be made aware of a draft sometime in October. Again, I'm saying the 31st, with a final vote in December, so these go in. But I just want to make the point, in nowhere in any conversations that I've had with anyone do they still not recognize that there are specifics to all our disciplines, our programs, that have to be addressed. So again, even though in general some of this has a bad taste, we still hold the opportunity to create the criteria. And I think those discussions are so important. I tend to say keep it simple, but if you're not engaged in those conversations, I would make sure you are, because that's a really important moment to make sure that this is all drawn home and is appropriate for your discipline, your unit, wherever you're at.
Jeremy.
So now that BOT 24 is in effect, are the employment protections for tenured and NTT faculty at IU now the same? And if not, what are the differences?
I would be curious if maybe at some point we need to have that discussion. My general sense is they're different, and that's awkward to say, and I have people that have wanted to address it and not address it, but I think that's a conversation we should have because the outcome has changed, right? The outcome was the promise of a long-term contract, and now it involves a 5-year review. It's different, awkward, uncomfortable, but I'm open at some point. Maybe that's a discussion item.
Diane, you've asked questions. I'm giving a moment for anybody else. If not, I'll go back to you. Any other questions? Okay, Diane, you had your hand up first. We got time for one more.
So this is one of the same big problems because when you get evaluated for tenure, you have to show excellence, and you're showing excellence compared to peers across different universities. When you do annual review, it's are you doing what you're supposed to do, meets expectations, are you doing more than that, and how much more? And it looks like this post-tenure review is going to be on the annual review type of criteria. So have we lost, I mean, where did that excellence that we were held to for tenure, How does that play into it? And so I'm asking for clarification. I'm not thinking you can address it right now, either of you, but I think we all want to know how this is balanced, okay?
Carrie, you've answered this question 6 times already, so I'll just let you handle this one.
Well, we'll see how consistent I am, maybe. This is, you are correct in interpreting that this is an annual review plus. So again, we're looking at our evolving expectations in our jobs. And in some ways, it affords us the ability to pivot and shift and evolve as our career progresses. So while my area of expertise when I went up for tenure might have been A, you know, it's probably can and should evolve. And so I would argue that in many ways, the fact that as our career progresses, and Beth said it, that we move into more leadership roles in our scholarly activity, in our pedagogical interest. And that's what we want to be evaluated on as our career progresses. So in many ways, it supports that evaluation of are we meeting our expectations in the work that we are being asked to do as our career progresses. So I would argue that it's a good thing, and that what was an area of excellence when you decided to go up for tenure has changed and evolved, and we're not going to hold ourselves to what we might have had 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Thank you very much. I see one more hand up, so I'll let you go one more.
I'm sorry to keep coming back to this. It's largely self-serving. I've been asked to chair the committee that's trying to reconcile the annual review and our post-tenure review. And so I wanted to ask that you've talked a couple of times about evolving foci as we progress through our careers. But there has to be one standard written that's applied to everyone that's going up for review. So are you suggesting to write the post-tenure review criteria broadly in a way that would allow people who continue to publish a great deal like they did right after they became associate professors, and to incorporate those people who are now presidents of associations and publishing a little less, and are mentoring a lot of students and therefore publishing a little less? Are you suggesting that writing a broad criteria that a productive scholar, many different types of productive scholars could fit under, is the right way to go?
100%. And my gut tells me that in 6 months when we're doing this, what we're going to be spending most of the time in our committees arguing about is if we met expectations or exceeded expectations, right? That's going to be the majority of because again, so many of our faculty are doing extraordinary things in so many ways, and we want to allow broad, general criteria that supports, recognizes, and celebrates the work that we do as we evolve.
Thank you, Carrie. I know there's a lot of work to be done on this one, and I appreciate all the hard work policy committee chairs and the VPFA and our team are doing. Let me move on to the last item on the agenda. It is our first time we're doing this here. It is new business. It is an open session. But before we begin, I'll invite Bill to kind of walk us through the logic format, and then we'll open it up to the floor for whatever might arise.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so our first time with new business, what we approved last year was a minimum of 10 minutes. We clearly have more if we need it. New business for now will float, and the reason is maybe in the spring, perhaps when we have things that just must be approved, it might be in a different place, but if we don't, it could move around. So it's not always going to be at the end of the agenda today. It just sort of happened to be that way. The other thing we approved was it's open. The only thing that can't be voted on to be approved are new policies or policy edits. If a policy is approved, there's interest in it, then it will go through our regular process to a committee. Everything else, discussion, motions for resolutions, everything else I believe is on the table. Dr. Aku is our fill-in parliamentarian today, so she stands ready to navigate. And then the other option, and I did have people email, we did not set any precedent that new business is set ahead of time, because otherwise it's not new business, it sort of becomes an agenda item. So it is a bit of a see what happens during the call for new business. So as soon as that call is made, the presiding officer will choose people. You'll have an opportunity to present. For today, I believe we said most things need to come with a motion, even for discussion, just to make sure that there's an appetite in the room to carry something forward. And then we'll just see how it goes.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. With that, I'll open up the meeting for any new business you might have. Moira.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be the big guinea pig for new business. Many of you should have in front of you a resolution concerning a emeriti role on the Faculty Council. If you don't have a copy, we have a few left here. We can get to you. You raise your hand if you would like one. And I just lost my pen. Hang on.
I'll get it for you.
Cool. If with your indulgence, would you mind if I read the resolution?
So I'm just going to call on process so we are all uniform. It appears that you want a motion
Yes.
to have a resolution.
Can I make the motion?
Yes, you can, and you may want to describe very briefly what it is.
We have a resolution that is describing the disenfranchising of emeriti faculty in any shared governance roles on this campus through Board of Trustee policy, and calling on the Board of Trustees to rescind that part of the policy, if not the whole thing.
Okay, so there's a motion. It'll need a second before it's opened up for discussion. We have a couple of people seconding it, so now it is open for discussion. Moira, if you don't mind, please explain in detail, and then I'll open it up for Q&A.
Okay. Well, I can read it quickly, I think. So, whereas in May 2025, the Indiana legislature inserted a provision into the budget bill prohibiting emeriti faculty who were no longer employed by the university from voting in faculty governance organizations. Whereas in June 2025, the trustees of IU went further and passed policy BOT 19 that prohibits emeriti from serving in any capacity on any council, committee, task force, or similar body at the university or at the school or departmental level. Whereas the Constitution of the Bloomington Faculty establishes the emeriti faculty as an election unit of the BFC. Whereas for the past 50 years or more, the administration and faculty have worked together through shared governance to enhance the academic programs, research, and reputation of Indiana University. Whereas emeriti faculty have often been called on to serve in leadership positions ranging from committee chair to chair of the Faculty Board of Review to president of the faculty. Whereas under the shared governance model, Herman B. Wells built a university with a worldwide reputation which all administrations until now have worked to preserve and enhance. Whereas prohibitions on emeriti involvement in faculty governance deprive decision-making bodies ranging from the BFC to departmental programs to student committees of decades of expertise, experience, and institutional memory. Whereas the absence of emeriti faculty will require the remaining faculty to devote more time to service and less to teaching and scholarship. And whereas 3 emeriti professors are currently challenging the legality and constitutionality of both BOT 19 and the anti-emeriti provision in HEA 1001, now therefore be it resolved that the Bloomington Faculty Council, as elected representatives of the Indiana University faculty, and flip over, there are three resolves. 1, expresses full support for the suit being brought against HEA 1001 and BOT 19 by Professors Tanford, Sherman, and Skiba. Calls on the Board of Trustees at their first opportunity to rescind or amend policy BOT 19 to restore participation and voting rights to emeriti faculty. for the good of the university community, and extends its deepest thanks to Professors Tanford, Sherman, and Skiba, and to countless other emeriti for their unpaid and devoted service to this body and to the welfare of our youth. And I just want to say, in closing, speaking from my own experience, for those who may not realize just how much emeriti have given and continue to give to our community, the three who were mentioned by name, Russ Skiba, who retired in 2018, he chaired the School of Education Diversity Committee for over 10 years. Jim Sherman, who retired in 2015, was appointed recently to serve on the Campus Review Board, but he also served on the BFC Benefits Committee for more than 30 years and was chair of it for 15 years, many of those while he was emeritus. And Alex Tanford, who also retired in 2015, was elected to the Faculty Board of Review last year, can no longer serve on it, was elected president of the faculty in 2017, served on the University Policy Council and on task forces to revise the sexual harassment policy and the Code of Student Rights and Responsibilities and Conduct, and served as ombudsman for the campus for 5 years, purely in a voluntary role, assisting countless faculty navigate their way through our grievance and mediation processes. And it was pointed out that there are 3 old white guys here who are named in this resolution, but they're not the only ones. Just going through a list of people who've served as emeriti on the BFC that I know in the last few years. We have Moya Andrews, we have Laura Ginger, Pat Riesenman, Bob Arnoff, Herb Terry, who was also faculty president while being emeritus, Bruce Jaffe, Ted Miller, Peter Klusterman, and just many others. I won't name them all. So the emeriti contribute a lot. And I believe that there are a number of emeriti in the gallery here today. I don't know if you want to stand and be acknowledged by this body for what you did. And I had to do it that way because as the BOT policy stands now, none of these folks may speak unless we suspend the rules.
Thank you, Moira. This is now open for discussion. Bill.
Yeah, I would just like to, make a general statement so you know kind of where my actions may come from. I've thought about resolutions in general, and I just want you to know my position is mostly going to be that if resolutions come up in new business, I'm probably going to vote no, and I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you how a next step that could come. I really feel we are all here as representatives of our constituents, and I'm always concerned about something that comes and we don't have a chance to vet it with our people. The way around that is somebody could make a subsidiary motion that it perhaps be put on the next agenda for a vote to give us time to do that. It is never going to be a reflection of the statement at hand or my position. I just really feel strongly as faculty president, I have to make sure that we're here representing constituents. Now, the change to that might be last year there was an emergency. It was the last meeting, a resolution came to the table and we had no other option. So I'm just putting that out there so nobody's shocked if they see me do that. I will not be making a subsidiary motion. I will leave that as a facilitator to my colleagues, or we'll vote in the moment, however it may come across.
David.
Thank you. Moira, thank you for bringing this to our attention today. I think this is wonderfully written. I would only want to add one thing to it. My department, you've talked about the amazing, incredible contributions of our emeriti colleagues at university or campus level administration. At the smaller level, in my department, our emeriti faculty are incredibly essential to co-chairing dissertations, serving on qualifying exam committees, being a part of the intellectual community of our department, recruiting students to our campus, because it's often the emeriti faculty that have that name recognition and reputation that brings people to IU. And our department in particular, a smaller arts and humanities department, which has an incredible history and legacy on this campus, is dependent upon our emeriti faculty. And if, as you say, BOT 19 prevents them from serving on any committee in campus, schools, and departments, my department, for one, is losing out a huge labor resource for mentorship and advising of our students and stewarding them through the graduate school process.
David, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I would like to. You know, I thought about this when we saw the wording of the bill that came through from the state, and you know, I'm always going to think optimistically about graduate students. I think that bill referred to governance committees and not to academic committees. And I see a service on a dissertation committee, service on qualifying exam committees as part of an academic duty of a faculty member or a emeriti faculty member. So I think I may have responded to some of you in this regard. I think that emeriti faculty can continue to serve in those roles, even with the BOT policy, even with the state law. And no one has said no so far. So that's good news.
Other questions? Yes, Beth.
I wonder, from the perspective of my department, the social and historical sciences more generally, the people I'm here to represent, we're incredibly concerned, and I could even say about African studies, right? We're incredibly concerned about the role that emeriti have played as donors. And that's critical not only for student success at the undergraduate and graduate level, but it's also incredibly important, I would imagine, to the university. And I would love to hear how the university upper administration has been thinking about cultivating emeriti as donors.
Yeah, well, anything you want to add there, Chancellor?
I think there's not a person in this room that does not have the highest regard for our emeriti faculty, and their many, many contributions, including the philanthropic contributions, which are numerous. And you know, I want to thank Dean Dalekey for his clarification on the distinction between sort of governance participation versus participation in academic programs, which I believe, as far as I understand, is really a local matter for local programs. So it may make sense in a particular program for emeriti faculty to sit on a dissertation committee. It may not in another program. I think that is a local decision based on local conventions and the faculty who are, you know, responsible for that particular academic program. So, you know, I think it's just important for everybody to, you know, to know, and I think that this room is, I'd imagine, unanimous in the belief that the emeriti faculty deserve much praise, much recognition, and nothing but our full support and I just think that, anyway, I don't know if that helps at all. And obviously they are frequently and have been important donors.
Other questions? Yep, go ahead.
During my first few years, I heard our dean say that he had consulted with the faculty that count. I was aghast. What a thought. Some of us don't count. And 3 decades later, I see it again. The emeritus faculty don't count. These are people who've devoted their hearts and heads to Indiana University. These are you. These are us in years to come. And now their wisdom, your wisdom, offered for free, is rejected. They've worked to build a community of scholars, and now they're ostracized, banished. What a waste of resources. Decades of understanding of IU and experience with what works and what doesn't, and knowledge of how the faculty responds and doesn't to given initiatives. Right now, IU is cutting costs by offering incentives to encourage retirement, but at the same time, denying and diminishing emeritus status will discourage retirement. If you want people to retire, don't make retirement less attractive. Faculty members are now being asked, what are low-cost or no-cost actions that could improve morale? This is one. Allow faculty members to continue to participate in the community they built, maintaining their sense of self as professors. The opposite message, the ostracism message, is not limited to retirees. It filters down to younger members of the faculty and those elsewhere who might consider joining the faculty, discouraging them from devoting their heads and hearts to building this university. The ostracism message says, if you want to devote your career or your life to a university, don't do it here. And if you're already here and you care, never retire, because you will become one of them, not us. Depriving retired faculty members of costless benefits is costly.
Thank you. David?
Thank you. I'd like to call the question.
Okay. So it's time for us to vote. Yes, so we need a vote on whether or not to call the question. All right, all in favor, please raise your hands. If it's going to be closed, we may need somebody to count it.
Yeah, we're over the simple majority.
Okay, so then it passes.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Do we need a record of that, of the vote, parliamentarian? Do we need a
Yes,
actual record?
Well, yes. So, and that was a vote. I am slightly confused. Is it? Sorry. Sure. Okay. There you go. So, okay, so my understanding is that that was a vote just to end the discussion and get to a vote. So now the question is basically, are we going to pursue a vote to approve this resolution or pursue a vote to table the resolution to the next meeting? I would say Moira, as the one who initiated the resolution, should make a motion.
I'm not a parliamentarian, but the motion on the floor is the resolution. I have not heard a motion to table.
Okay.
Yes. So I'll call a vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion as proposed by Moira, and it's in the sheet in front of you, please raise your hands.
Yeah, that's a clear, simple majority.
Okay, I believe the motion passes. Thank you. Okay. We are still in the new business section. We have time for other new business, if any. Julie?
So this is referring to the other resolution sheet that you have. So last semester, I was informed by a fellow BFC member that there was, in their terms, an armed guard present at the January 14th BFC meeting. IUPD had no reports of an armed presence at that meeting, so this might mean that there was a plainclothes police officer bearing a firearm in attendance at our faculty meeting, but we do not know. After that meeting, I tracked the following at subsequent BFC meetings. January 28th's BFC meeting had 5 uniformed police officers present in the meeting room. February 11th, there were 2 uniformed police officers present. March 25th, there was 1 uniformed police officer present, and April 8th, there was 1 uniformed police officer present. I have not recognized plainclothes police officers, so that continues to be an unknown, but there was a clear escalation of police presence during the spring semester meetings. Additionally, we know that students were arrested on January 14th for disorderly conduct, but I have not been able to confirm where those arrests took place. So the resolution regarding police presence at Bloomington Faculty Council meetings is aiming at more transparency and documentation regarding police presence during our Faculty Council proceedings. And based on the time, I am going to move that the resolution regarding police presence at Bloomington Faculty Council meetings be added to the agenda for the October 14th BFC meeting.
Okay, we need a second for this motion. We have a second. This is open for discussion. Any questions, any comments?
I can read the resolution if that helps, or would I do that at this point? So the resolution as it reads right now is whereas both uniformed and plainclothes police officers from the Indiana University Police Department were present inside the meeting room, President's Hall and Franklin Hall, for several Bloomington Faculty Council meetings during the 2024-2025 academic year. Whereas this police presence was not at the request of a majority vote of the elected members of the Bloomington Faculty Council. Whereas IUPD makes independent decisions about being present or not at public events on campus. Whereas Bloomington Faculty Council meetings are considered public events on campus, and whereas plainclothes police officers bearing firearms is confusing and alarming in a situation where it is not known or expected that they will be present, now therefore be it resolved that Bloomington Faculty Council requests IUPD provide prior notice to the BFC office of any planned presence at BFC meetings, and that presence is announced as part of public BFC meeting proceedings. BFC Secretary includes information about the presence of uniformed and or plainclothes police in the meeting summary provided to faculty after each meeting, and any official actions taken by IUPD during a public BFC meeting, such as citations or arrests, be included in official BFC minutes for that meeting.
Questions or comments? Bill?
So I think this would be a perfect example of how presented. Now you have time to take it back, have discussions. We'll make sure this is available. It certainly will be, if you vote to put on the agenda, the document will be attached like all circulars are. Just bringing up that point.
Yes, go ahead.
I think there could be a little bit more meat added to this resolution. The statement, provide prior notice, in principle could be 2 minutes before the meeting. I think we should add a time limit, X number of days. So all of us who are coming to this meeting know what is coming.
Moira?
I'm wearing my former, well, never parliamentarian hat again. The last part of the resolution, I do not believe that IUPD actions or inactions belong in the minutes of this body. We're not them, they're not us. The minutes are supposed to be the record of the actions that the BFC took. If there's some other way of recording that information, so it's part of the historical record, that's a separate thing from minutes, is my understanding.
If I may just add for your information only, I do not vote on resolutions or motions here at all. But security teams never disclose what they're doing because it actually weakens the security position. So irrespective of the resolution here, my guess is that the decision to disclose or not will be based on the security needs rather than a resolution out of this body. So just keep that in mind as you have a further discussion about this. Yes.
A very quick follow-up as I'm learning how to secretary here. I believe so the distinction between the meetings and the summary that will get sent out to faculty. I absolutely agree. It doesn't belong in the meeting minutes, which, as I understand, is more action-oriented. The summary, I personally, in the past, would have loved to have seen that in the summary. I think, even though they're not part of the meeting, it is part of the environment that we feel in here that influences how we experience being in this meeting.
Other questions? We have 6 minutes.
Yeah, time to call the question.
So okay, Julie.
Thank you for the suggested edits. And is it going to work for me to do edits on this and then send it along to you to post and share for the next? Does that work?
I think we have a motion on the floor, so we'll have to call a vote. You
okay.
could.
Okay, if it's, yeah.
I'm sorry, somebody talking there? Okay. All right, so I will call a vote. The vote is for the motion as written. You can have a friendly amendment. You can table it. You can there are other options out for this group. But seeing none of the others, I will call a vote. Julie, are you trying to have
Yeah, I
another
was going to
comment?
say, if I can amend the motion to say I move that the resolution regarding police presence at the Bloomington Faculty Council meetings with suggested edits be added to the agenda for the October 14th BFC meeting.
Okay, so we have an amended motion. Does an amended motion need a second? It does, so we do need a second. We have a second. So now we have an amended motion to have a slightly modified version and to be added it for discussion at the next meeting. So all in favor of adding it to the next meeting, please raise your hands. I'd say that's a pretty clean majority. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you. Any other issues or questions? I have 4 minutes left. Seeing none, I'll give you 4 minutes back. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all. If you liked any of the items in your bag, I have extras up here. Please come get them.